Hello, everyone. Welcome back. I hope you are having a great day so far. No matter which way you look at it, from any angle, we all agree that our country is just magnificently beautiful. Beautiful colors in the fall, provided by Natalie in Quebec, or if you're one of the few people in our country that visited Ram Falls in Alberta like Amanda did, or if you've driven to the northern tip of Vancouver Island like Dave did and snapped this shot of the sunset. Anywhere you look in our country, from coast to coast to coast, it's just amazingly beautiful. And this video is just about that. The world is noticing. As Canadians, we're well aware of the boycott on travel to the United States. We're the ones who started it and championed it. But it seems like the world is catching on and doing the same thing. And at first it was just our reaction to the drama and the rhetoric and the insults from the President of the United States, and it was our way of making a statement. We're not going to go to the United States, we're going to stay in Canada. And we boycotted travel there and basically crushed their tourism industry. But something else has happened on the heels of that maybe we didn't factor into the equation. It seems like the whole world has followed us, and we're seeing a trend now that Canada is becoming more and more the destination of choice in the world as people say no to the USA and yes to anywhere else. And Canada now ranks way up there in the most desirable places for people to come and visit. It seems like the USA's loss is Canada's gain. And not only does it make us feel good, but it's very good for our economy. Recently, October 9th, reported here on CTV News, there was a poll done, and the results show that most Canadians think boycotting U.S. goods or travel is helpful. 4 in 5 Canadians surveyed believed boycotting U.S.-made goods or avoiding travel to the United States could help strengthen Canada's bargaining position with its southern neighbor. And if you look at the little circle chart here beside me, it shows that only 11% of people said it was not helpful and 4% of people were unsure. What the hell are you unsure about? How can you be unsure? Who would answer a poll question like this by saying, I'm unsure? These are the same type of people that when they go to a restaurant and the server comes by and says, do you know what you'd like to order? They say, I'm unsure. And when the server says, okay, I'll come back in 5 minutes and ask you again. And 5 minutes later, they come back. They say, do you know what you want now? They say, well, I'm still unsure. And why would you have unsure as one of the answers to your question? Do you think boycotting U.S. goods and avoiding travel to the United States could help strengthen Canada's bargaining position? Yes or no? What do you mean? Unsure, helpful, somewhat helpful, not helpful, unsure? What? Who does these polls? Why are we even looking at this? Okay, the video's over. Forget about it. A headline here on World News, October 5th. Canadian travel boycott hits U.S. tourism hard in 2025. Report declines in Canadian tourism to the U.S. by 36% for car trips and 16% for air travel in 2025 compared to 2024. The numbers highlight Las Vegas and California as major U.S. destinations suffering steep drops in Canadian visitors and spending, with Las Vegas flights down nearly 1/3. Arizona's real estate markets declining, with Canadian buyers dropping 43% year over year as many Canadians sell properties. And I can read you dozens and dozens of headlines that say the same thing. We know that. We're Canadian and we started this. And just to illustrate how much of a huge impact this has, the U.S. tourism industry contributed approximately $2.4 trillion to the national economy in 2024. It is a big industry. It supports 18 million jobs in the US, making it the world's largest travel market. Well, maybe not for long. Overall world travel to the United States is down, with international visitor numbers and spending projections to decrease significantly in 2025 compared to previous years. Restrictive immigration policies and political rhetoric, and maybe throw in images that we see all over the internet now of people in camouflage gear with masks and assault rifles with no badge or identifications walking up to people on the street in the United States and grabbing them, throwing them on the ground, putting them in handcuffs, and then throwing them into vehicles and driving away. And those people never to be seen again. Maybe seeing images like that are making people feel a little bit more reluctant to travel to the United States. Maybe that's giving off a not so friendly vibe down there lately. And don't expect that to turn around anytime soon with respect to Canada. Canadians canceling trips to the US in big numbers. Here's what Donald Trump thinks about the dip in tourism. When asked a question on this topic in the Oval Office while he was sitting beside our Prime Minister, are you worried about the drop in Canadians visiting the United States and what can we do about that? This was his answer, and I'm just going to read it word for word rather than show you the video because I just don't feel like watching him right now. He said, in answer to that question, I understand that. Look, I understand that. It's something that will get worked out. There's still great love between the two countries, but you know, American people want to produce here. They want to make it here. We are competing for the same business. That's the problem. That's why I keep mentioning one way to solve that problem. There's a very easy way. And of course, what he means when he says there's a very easy way, he's just referring to his rhetoric about Canada should become the 51st state. And then you're already in the United States. You don't have to visit the United States. You'd already be part of the United States. So he just can't help himself. This is him on his best behavior. He didn't say the words 51st state, but he alluded to it with this comment. And Mark Carney just sat there politely and kind of made one of those faces he makes, the tell where he just looks over, and I'm sure in his mind he's thinking, you fucking dick. I better not say that because if I do that, maybe he'll increase tariffs. Maybe that's what he was thinking. I'm not sure. So no, there's not great love between our countries, and we're going to continue our boycott, and you'll probably see those tourism numbers drop even more going forward. And this article here contains a statistic that I don't think we've ever seen before. The headline is the same: Canadian travel to the US declines for 7th consecutive month amid trade war. They quote the statistics here. In July, the number of Canadian residents returning from the United States, and that's how they measure the trips, Canadian Customs counts how many people are returning. That's how they measure it. That number was down to 2.6 million, marking a 32.4% decrease compared to July 2024, Statistics Canada said in a report on Tuesday. Meanwhile, 3.3 million US residents made the trip to Canada in July, a drop of only 3%. So Americans are still visiting Canada, but Canadian visits to the US have dropped dramatically. This marked only the second month since June 2006, excluding August and September 2021 during the COVID-19 pandemic, that more Americans visited Canada than the other way around. And this is reflected in the numbers. While tourist visits to the United States have collapsed, Canadian tourism is up 30% as US travel continues to decline. And up till now, we Canadians have just patted ourselves on the back and said, good job, let's all choose Canada. But something's happening. The tourism increase in Canada is not just from Canadians that are choosing Canada and choosing to vacation here. It's caught on, and the rest of the world is doing the same. In a recent survey done by World Atlas, Canada has been named the most loved country in the world. Oh, and we don't have people wearing camouflage gear and masks, carrying assault rifles, abducting you on the streets. We don't have any of that. But not only that, recently, Canada was named one of the world's top 10 countries in the Condé Nast Travelers 2025 Reader's Choice Awards. Each year, the Condé Nast Traveler invites hundreds of thousands of readers to rate their favorite destinations across the globe. Here are the results from that survey, the list of the top countries in the world. Top choice for tourist destination. Number 1 is Japan, then Greece, Portugal, Italy, Spain. I would expect all those countries to be in there. Usually the United States is right at the top. It's nowhere to be found on this survey. And Canada is on the list now at number 10, ahead of countries like Switzerland and Mexico. Mexico's a big holiday destination. Canada ranks above Mexico now. I wouldn't have guessed that. So now what we're seeing happening is not just Canadians saying no to the United States, but the rest of the world starting to say yes to Canada. And this is a huge boost for our tourism industry. And our tourism industry was never that big a part of our economy, but it's growing fast. And the spin-offs from the spending that's done by tourists multiplies and benefits our economy. You know, we never thought of ourselves as a big tourist destination. I guess we're a little bit too humble as Canadians. We know that we live in a great country, but we never really sell ourselves very much, and we never really considered ourselves a big tourist destination. But the rest of the world is starting to let us know that, yes, Canada is among the top tourist destinations now. And you know what? That feels pretty good. In that same survey, there was another category: what are the best small cities in the world to visit? And number one, Victoria, Canada, ahead of cities like Puerto Vallarta of Mexico and Florence in Italy. Have you ever been to Florence? It's a pretty nice place. Well, you know what? Victoria's a pretty nice place too. And the whole world is starting to see this. And I guess we have this guy to thank for it. He started it all with his bombastic insults and rhetoric. And of course, we reacted in solidarity, unanimously galvanized, and we boycotted travel to the United States. And I've been very vocal in saying we should choose Canada. But the whole world was going through the same thing. And the whole world watched how we behaved. And many were inspired by us. And thousands left comments on many of my videos saying things like, I'm from Australia and we support Canada. I'm from Thailand and I'm with you. Saying hello from Denmark to my Canadian friends. We're from Sweden and we stand with Canada. It's become somewhat of a global movement. And as the whole world changes its behavior, people from all sorts of different countries changing their plans and avoiding the United States. And they're trying to decide now, well, where should we go on holidays? What places should we visit? And many of them are choosing Canada. And just to highlight how important Canada's tourism industry is, let me refer to this article here by World Travel and Tourism Council out of the UK. And they point out that travel and tourism is set to contribute a record $182 billion to the Canadian economy this year. They point out in their report here that our tourism industry supports 1.84 million Canadian jobs, with an increase of 120,000 jobs compared to a previous high in 2019. $43.7 billion spent by international visitors and $95.2 billion spent by ourselves. And I have to say that Canadians have always underestimated the importance and the size of our tourism sector. It represents now close to 7 to 8% of our GDP. And I'll point out that there's lots of other countries in the world that don't just rely on chopping down trees and pumping oil, which is kind of our mindset here in Canada. For example, one of the biggest economies in the world, Japan, they don't chop down trees and they don't pump oil. They have one of the biggest tourism industries in the world, and it supports a lot of jobs and adds a lot of value to their GDP. Another country who has a GDP very similar to Canada that doesn't just rely on cutting down trees and pumping oil, Italy. They have a huge tourism sector. And we have to stop thinking in Canada that tourism is some sort of a second-class industry, and we have to realize that we have a fantastically beautiful country, and a lot of people are going to decide to come and visit us. And that's going to create a lot of jobs and a lot of wealth for our country. And I'd like to extend a warm welcome to anyone who's visiting our country. Thanks so much for coming. You're welcome anytime. All Canadians will welcome you with open arms. Let's start making this a trend and see if we can build some momentum here and stop defaulting to just underestimating ourselves. Look around where we live. We live in one of the most beautiful countries in the world, and so why wouldn't we be one of the top tourist destinations in the world? We need to start being serious about promoting ourselves and promoting our country and advertising and trying to entice more people to come and visit. And I know I've said this before, the USA's loss is our gain, but it's more than that now. We can make more gains now just by being ourselves, as many people from around the world decide to choose Canada as their holiday destination. So a bit of a good news story for you today, and I think this is just the beginning. I think you're going to see this trend continue. It's going to be very interesting to see what happens in the winter season and then next spring. If it extends into next spring and summer, it'll be really good for the Canadian tourism industry and the whole economy as well. Thanks for watching, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. Consider becoming a channel member if you want to support this channel by clicking the join button below. Have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll catch you all on the next one.